Hi Tubies, here's your Alexandra, and welcome to yet another painting tutorial. You see, I have a nice new background. This is a new green cutting mat. I have simply turned around so you don't see the lining here and it doesn't focus on the background. And I hope this will provide now finally a good solution for colors to see them well. This time we will have a look at painting an Imperial Guard Veteran. As you can see, this is a old metal model and it is already partially primed in black. So my intention for this miniature is I want to paint him like an inquisitorial veteran. So I will start by well, painting him entirely black. And for that I just simply take black paint and paint the whole miniature completely in black. We do this because the black primer has actually a little bit different color than black paint, and if we want to paint something in black over it, it is always a good idea to make a thin coat of actual chaos black or abaddon black or whatever black you have over it. So I will finish up the process like usual, and I'll be back in a second. Okie dokie, there we go. He's now completely black. And for those of you who wonder what this is, this is simply sand over the base, and I've primed it. I used white glue, dipped the base into my sand box and let it dry, and after the priming it looks like that. So, in order to paint an Imperial Guard Veteran for the Inquisition, the main colors would be black and red. So, black is covered now, and now we go to the red part. And for those, I thought all the clothing part of the miniature will be red. So, but to paint over black, we need a Citadel base color, corn red. So, just take a little bit on your palette, just like that. So, and we will darken that down with a tiny bit of black. So, just like that. So, and with that color, we will now paint all the clothes, and you see this color now actually covers quite nicely over black. So I'm not using my top brushes right now. This is just a size 2 wood marker brush, very old one. You can do that with your standard base coat brush from GW or any other brush the same size. So, like usual, I will finish that up and be right back. Ta-da! And we are back with the red parts painted already. So, and now we will start to highlight this miniature. First thing, we are going now with from corn red to Mephiston red. Like usual, take a little bit on your palette. Give your brush a good wash. So, and now we will start to highlight. Quite simple. Just paint the upper parts of all the clothing and leave a little bit of the dark color behind as shadows. Dum-de-dum-de-dum-de-dum. So, and the brush I'm using is a Rotmarder Kulinski, size 3. It's a little bit longer from the tip size here than your standard base coat brush, but it's about the same size than a base coat brush. So, and we are almost done. And like usual, I will flip over to the other side in a blink of an eye. Okay, tubies, here the first red highlight coat is applied, and now comes the second with Evil Sun's Scarlet. Just take a little bit on your palette. This time I add a little bit of water to give it a bit of flow. I'm adjusting the amount of color on a paper towel, and then quite simply, only with the tip of the brush, I'm highlighting even more, leaving a little bit of the old color behind, and voila. You get a nice highlighted area. It's super easy to do. So, and we are done. So, okay, that was obviously the red coat of the armor. Now let's quickly paint the eyes. For that I use contour blue. And I will paint these in the same manner as I would paint a crystal or a gem from the Elder. So I use now a brighter blue and mix it in with the contour blue, just like that. And then I will paint 2/3 of the lower part of the eye with that color. Now I take a little bit more of the ticklish blue into the contour blue. And I'm painting now about half of the eye. From the lower end. Now I take pure ticklish blue. And paint even lower. Don't worry if you hit the respirator. We will paint that later. So, now we need a little bit of white. And don't forget to close your paint pots. Dry paint is something you don't want to have happen. So, just like with a crystal, we will paint now a little white dot down here and one up here, just like that. And voila, this eye will automatically get a 3-dimensional look because of that. See? So, and while we have the white out, we can simply paint on now a little inquisitorial symbol here on the shoulder. Quite easy. I think I have watered down the color too much. Well, that was nothing, but we can fix that. So, again a little bit black. Swoop, and it is covered up. Okay, we will come back to that later. Okay, I'll be right back in a second. Okay, tubies, after 5 tries and 5 times overpainted, I have decided, no, I will not freehand the inquisitorial symbol on that. Sorry about that. Well, I'm really not that good at freehand. So let's continue with painting. We will highlight now the black parts, and for that we use Ashen Gray. Just simply put a little bit on the palette, and what you do then is you take your brush and load it, and then you will flatten the brush. If you see, here it's flat, and with that you can now really good paint the edges of the miniature. Just simply follow the edges with this flat side of the brush. It's really easy. You may ask why I don't highlight the black areas the same way that I highlighted the red areas. Well, that's quite easy. If I would highlight the black areas normally, then all the black would look actually gray, and you don't want to have that happen. And so if you paint something in black, there's actually almost no other way than edge highlighting, and so we are doing this here. So I think you got the point. We are basically edge highlighting now every single edge on the miniature. On parts like that, where you can't use the edge method like here, for example, you simply paint lines. Just like that. It helps when you add a tiny little bit of water to the paint to make the flow better. But it's basically quite simple to achieve. Well, this is a very boring thing to do, and it takes quite some time, but if you want to make black look good, that's the only way to do. So, like usual, I will skip the parts that are boring and be right back. So, tubies, the first grey highlight lines are applied everywhere, as you can see. And now we will highlight that even more by adding a little bit white to the Ashen Grey. So, that's the color. And Also tiny little bit of water, just the tip of the brush, to improve the flow. And with it, I will go in and paint some top highlights that are supposed like main light reflections here and there. If you see a glancing surface, then some of the areas are glaring, not every single one. So just pick some major spots you think that light would reflect and highlight those. For example, this little area here at the knee, and down there here at the feet. And maybe here at his backpack on one side. Okay, I guess that's all for the black parts. Yeah, I think that's enough. Maybe here in front. So, okay. Now what we do is we paint here the little cables of his gun. And for that I decided to paint them in green. So, we have here in the GW paint range, in the Citadel paint range, Caliban green as the darkest green version. And the brightest green version is mood green. So, but unfortunately, between those two colors, there are no actual yellow-greenish tones like these two. These two are yellow-greenish tones. The rest of the GW paint range consists of pastel green tones, meaning that in this here, this is a yellowish green, it was highlighted with yellow. The pastel green tones are highlighted with white, so I needed some colors in between. So what did I do? I bought me 2 additional pots of mood green and dark angels green, or here not dark angel, Caliban green. And what I did, I created a color line. So in this version, well, that was the rest then of the Caliban green. I added black, so to darken it down. This is then the first, then comes Caliban green. Then I took this version here. This is Caliban green with mood green. Also, then this version here, this is also Caliban green plus blue green, mood green, but you can see in this pot is more mood green than Caliban green. And this version here is, I think, a little bit brighter than the mood green. I added a little bit of yellow, but I have to mix on that again. So, but this is now my painting line for painting green. This time we can skip this part here. So we will add now Caliban green to the miniature. Just a little bit on the palette. Zoom in again. So, and with that I simply paint the green tubes or cables, or however you want to call them. So I will finish painting them and let them dry and be right back. So the Caliban green is dry now, and let's start with our first highlight. This is about a 1:2 mixture. So 1 part Caliban green and 2 parts mood green that I've mixed in my empty paint pot. So, and with that we will now go over the cubes and highlight them. Of course, we will leave a little bit of the Caliban green behind. Especially in the line between those two tubes. So, there is no real secret to this. Just paint it on. Quite easy. So, don't forget the back side. There we go. Now it's time for color number 2. This is a 1-1 mixture of Caliban green and mood green. And you see, the higher the highlights, the faster the highlight steps are. And now we will go with pure mood green. And you see, a perfect color transition with colors that are self-mixed. So, I've done this to show you the capabilities of empty paint pots. So, if there is a color, or if you need a color, and there is no company out there that produces a specific color that you need, then simply mix them together. That's it. So, I'll be right back for the last final details of this miniature. Okie dokie. There are still some Imperial Eagles and, well, there's another one that we can paint in gold. As a base we need Balthazar gold. Again, a little bit on the palette. You see, I always put the paint from the pot in the palette. Never paint from the pot. That's for some simple reason. If you paint from the pot, you take the color, zoom out a little bit. So, you take the color from the pot and look at the tip of the brush. This is not very controllable. You see? With that, that's not a good tip. But if you put that on a palette, then you can manipulate the tip of the brush by simply dragging the paint a little bit, and voila, you get a perfect tip. You see? That's the main reason why I'm using the palette. Well, it might seem there's a whole waste of color using this way. Yes, that might be true, but it is absolutely worth it. And besides that, the amount of colors that you are using for such miniatures is so small. Normally a paint pot, if it don't runs dry, it will last almost a lifetime of painting miniatures. So there is actually no need to be color saving here. Okay, so as a second highlight we need now this gold here, Auric Armor Gold. Always give it a good shake. So and with that I will paint over the Imperial Eagles. Why I'm not using the second gold in the first one? Well, that's quite simple, because it doesn't cover that good. But over the Balthazar gold it covers perfectly. So, and I guess this miniature is almost complete. Only thing left to do is the base, but for that I need another brush. Never ever use your good brushes for base work purposes. So for that I use an old base coat brush now. This base is already primed in black, so that's a good working space. I will start with where do we have it? There we have it. With Mournfang Brown. It's a good one. If you don't have that, the old Bestial Brown will just work as fine. So, and then give it a heavy overbrush. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Oops, I have hit the boot. And as long as the color is wet, we can remove that quite quickly with a wet and clean brush. Ta-da! The boot is saved. So, continuing painting the base. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. De-dum-de-dum-de-dum-dum. Okay, and now we will add a little bit XV88 to the color. Or good old snakebite leather will also do. Give it a not so heavy overbrush, that a little bit of the other brown still sticks out. Just like that. And now we will add a little bit of white to the color. There we go. So, and I guess we can call this base done. So, now remove the miniature from your holding device. And before you ask, this is simple poster tag. that I have attached on an old Citadel paint pot. Yes, this mysterious miniature holder is an old paint pot. Now the secret is out. It's no longer a secret. So, if you see someone placing a comment on my videos what this strange device is called, then you have now the ability to answer that question. And I command you to do so. Now I'm painting the edge of the base in Moonfang Brown. Doesn't matter if it don't covers 100% at the first try. Let that dry and go over it a second time. What I'm doing here is I'm stepping the miniature on a paper towel here to remove the excess paint from the bottom, so I can place it on something without sticking to it. Okay, I'll be right back when the base edge is done. Okay, tubies, now comes the time you've all been waiting for. We will add roasted onions, or röstzwiebeln. Oh no, look, it's flock. Just take your simple white glue, or lime auf Deutsch. Add a little bit to your base. Properly wash your brush after using white glue with it. You don't want your brush to dry on that. And then you take some tweezers with a little bit of the flock, slightly press it on, dabbing the excess off. And voila! Your little inquisitorial guardsman is finished. Yes, I know you could add transfer sheets now to the shoulder pads with real inquisitorial symbols and stuff like that, but I unfortunately don't have such a transfer sheet here in my studio home in Germany. Well, anyways, I hope you liked this little tutorial about this inquisitorial guardian, and we see us in the next video. Your Alexandra.